Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to a 5-day vlog. So the reason we're getting a 5-day vlog is because the 20th starts the Final Book support group, and well, there's 5 days between now and then, so you're going to get a vlog on what I read between now and the start of the Final Book support group. I'm currently in the midst of 3 books. The first is Fire Spells Between Friends, which is the second book in the Fae and Human Relations series. This is an ebook I'm listening to, and it follows Emrys, who is the brother of Wyn from the first book, and Torquil, who is the child of a Fae and a human, and they're an adult now, but they have Fae and human magic, and they're helping the council in this world try to determine what that looks like, because they started in the first book to really explore the differences in Fae and human magic. So now they're trying to figure out what that looks like in somebody who is got both in their bloodline and stuff like that. And of course, Emrys and Torquil have a relationship, and it's been interesting to see that develop. I think this is a series at some point I want to have physical copies of, whether it be ebook or physical, because I've only got the audio, so it can be hard to catch everything, and I think it's not sticking the way it should. But I am enjoying my time with it, and I do like the characters' relationships, both with each other and with others in the series, so I'm enjoying that one. I'm 280 pages into my reread of Mistborn, and I believe I'm enjoying it more than the first time, but it's been so many years, I can't be certain, so I'm very curious to see where I land on this when I finish it. And I'm 60 pages into The Witch's Apprentice, which is the third book in the Dragons in a Bag series, and I'm enjoying being back with Jax, and in this one he has a phoenix egg, and I'm very curious to see what he ends up doing with that. So other than that, I don't have any real solid plans other than do not read your Final Book support group TBR. I have my TBR planned. I've had it planned. I do need to film the video for that so that I can get that out, but I just need to remember to not read a book off of there, because I've tried a couple of times this week to almost pick one of those up and had to double, triple check that I wasn't. So we're going to see what I can get through that is not that. I do have maybe a couple of standalones and some first books in a series that maybe I'll pick those up so that I'm not reading them during the Final Book support group, but we'll see. And my battery is dying on my phone, so I'm going to wrap this clip up here so I can go charge my phone, and I will hopefully check back in with you in a couple of days to give you an update on how I'm doing. is Monday, which means I did not check in, and it is now officially time to wrap this up because I need to move on to my final book support group TBR. I had planned to check in, and then it clicked that the 16th was the 3-month anniversary of Liam's death, and the 17th was the 1-year anniversary of my Graham's death. So I really just did not want to interact with the world much. I did film the videos I needed to film, but to add this in on top of it was just more than I had spoons. So I didn't, but I did do a whole lot of reading, like an unbelievable amount of reading. So first I'm going to mention that I made more progress in Mistborn. I'm on page 443 and I'm just starting part 4. I am into this now. I think I can officially say that this is going to get a high 3, low 4. Unless whatever it was I really didn't like happens in these last like 250 pages. No, 200-ish pages. Something like that. So unless the thing that really put me off this one wasn't the end, I feel like we're in a good spot here. There was stuff that happened in the bit I've read that I just did not remember. I am very much enjoying seeing Vin and how she is going about the role that she has to play in this story. I still really think the magic in this world is cool and what people who have access to Allomancy are capable of, and learning more about that, and also seeing the nuances in the way that a Mistborn like Kelsey or Vin, who can access all of the metals, versus some of our other characters who only have access to one. Seeing those differences is so interesting because obviously people like Kelsey or Mistborn have to learn so much, whereas somebody who can only access one are really masters of using the one they have access to. So I think it is super intriguing to see the differences there. I am just very invested in this plot right now and the characters, so very curious to see how things turn out because I feel like I remember a couple of things, but I don't know if I'm misremembering or I'm confusing characters or how much like a grasp I have of my actual memories or things I've heard people say or just, you know, things like that. Like how much of my memory is trustworthy. So we're going to see where this goes. And yeah, definitely very glad that I picked it back up and gave it another shot because I'm enjoying it much more on reread. Now that is the only book I'm in the midst of. Well, I'm also in the midst of, what is it, Color of Revenge, which I started weeks ago and have not picked up since. I really need to get back to that. Other books called to me more than that one did. Otherwise, as far as I know, off the top of my head, I'm not actually in the middle of anything else. I could be wrong, because I've read just so much. But I believe I'm not in the midst of anything else. So as for books I finished Fire Spells Between Friends, and I gave this 4 stars. I really liked how things played out between Emrys and Torquil. I liked the way the book wrapped up. I do like the magic of this world. I just really think that this is a series that I think would benefit from a reread when I actually have physical copies to read along with, because this one I had no physical copy and no ebook. And so I feel like it is possible I would have been more invested if I was physically reading with my eyeballs, because I don't know this world well enough for the audiobook to always follow along with who everybody is and what is going on. So I feel like this is a series I'm going to reread at some point down the line, but I do enjoy it. I had fun with it, and I would continue the series if there is to be a book 3. Speaking of book 3s, I read The Witch's Apprentice and gave this 3.75 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Dragons in a Bag series, and I enjoy being back with Jax. I really enjoyed getting to follow along as he kind of struggled. He definitely had a bit of a struggle in this book. He was dealing with some things that did not make this an easy time for him. And that's without even getting into the things that were kind of going on in the greater scheme of things. I feel like this one kind of turned the series on its head a little bit, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays into the next 2 books, possibly final books. And I definitely plan to continue this. I've already requested book 4 from the library because I want to keep reading this while all of these details are fresh. So very much enjoyed being back with Jax in this world. I'm very, very curious to see where things are going because, like I said, this one kind of flipped everything on its head. Also, I finished one of my prompts for the hardboard, which is 6 or more colors on the cover. So very excited to be able to check that one off. Then I read Half a Soul and gave this 4.5 stars. So this is the first book in the, I think it's like Regency Fae or something like that series. The odds of it actually telling me. Yes, Regency Fairy Tales. There you go. This is the first book in the Regency Fairy Tales. I was not expecting it to tell me since it's the first book. And this follows Dora, who, when she's very young, has half of her soul stolen by a fae. And it makes her grow up unable to really express emotions, feel emotions, and behave the way one would expect a young lady to. She heads off to London with her cousin so that her cousin can do like the season in London, because this is a historical fiction as well as a fantasy romance. And there meets Elias, who is a bit of a grouch, but he discovers her condition, and because he's a magician and has magic, decides to look into things for her. And we see a relationship develop between Dora and Elias as he starts to look into things, but there's also some things that are going on in London that distract from his attention, and Dora gets pulled into that as well. I really enjoyed this. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. I thought it would be a fun book, but I was not expecting it to be the closest thing I've got to a 5-star. This is easily my favorite book that I've read so far this year. I just really like Dora. I like the way she saw things. I like the way she reacted to things. I liked her relationship with Elias and how that developed. There were several side characters that got involved, and I really like how those relationships played into the plot and everything that was going on. I thought Dora's relationship with her cousin was interesting and had some twists and turns in it that I wasn't expecting. I just really, really enjoyed this book. And that brings me to the next book I read, which is The Lord Sorcier, which is a prequel to Half a Soul. And it's in the back of Half a Soul and was in my audiobook, and I gave that 4 stars. So we get to see Elias and an important event in Elias's life from before he meets Dora. And I thought that was just brilliant. That is absolutely something we should have seen. And I think it really gives us some more information on Elias and another character we meet in Half a Soul who has a connection to Elias in this plot. And I just really enjoyed that little short story. I think it was a good addition to the series, and I had fun with that one as well. Then I read Sally's Lament, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This is a twisted tale, and it says, what if Sally discovered Christmastown? So I'm going to be honest. I have absolutely no idea what this is based on. If I had to guess, I'd say The Nightmare Before Christmas, because I think that's a thing. But I'm not 100% sure, because I don't know if that makes sense with what I read. So basically, we're following Sally, who is a doll, and she loves all things Halloween Town. She loves creepy, spooky stuff. Dr. Finkelstein created her, and he doesn't really want her to go anywhere or let her go or do anything, and she just really wants to kind of escape the pressures and the demands of being his servant. She manages to slip away and ends up running into Jack, the Pumpkin King, who is the leader of Halloween Town, and finds out that he is restless and dissatisfied as well. Determined to maybe fix things for both of them, she sets off kind of thinking about things and ends up stumbling across Christmastown. And Christmastown is completely different to everything that she's ever known, and wonders if maybe Christmastown is the solution that both she and Jack have been looking for. And I just really enjoyed this. I don't know how it compares to the actual story, because again, I don't know the actual story, but I had a lot of fun with this. I really like Sally. I thought she was a fun character to follow. I thought that Christmastown was really intriguing, and I liked the descriptions and also how different Halloween Town and Christmastown were. I think that the things Sally finds in Christmastown are surprising and unexpected, and because she knows nothing about Christmas, I had a good time watching her try to puzzle out what like the customs of Christmastown were and see how that compared to Halloween Town. I love the relationship she has with Jack and how that develops throughout this story. There is a character she meets in Halloween Town, and I really like that relationship as well. And I flew through this. I had a really fun time with this. Again, I can't speak to whether you will enjoy it if you're a fan of the original, but given that I went in blind, I thought it was really easy to follow, and I had a fun time with it. Then I read The Truth About Triangles, and I gave this 4 stars. This follows Luca, who is helping out at his parents' pizza restaurant. He loves making pizzas. He has an incredible passion for it. What he likes less is feeling like the referee between his mom and his dad, feeling like the referee between his twin younger siblings, and then making a new friend at school and feeling like the referee between his best friend and his new friend. So Luca is dealing with all of this turmoil kind of surrounding him, but he's got a favorite show that is all about pizza. It's a reality show where this guy goes around and checks out various pizza restaurants, and his dream is to one day be on it because he loves pizza that much. And then he finds out that the show is ending and the format's going to be a little bit different, and anybody can apply to be on the show. So he applies and feels that getting on the show will fix all of the problems. It will make his parents stop fighting. It will make his siblings stop fighting. It'll help things between his friends. He just feels like somehow if he can get on the show, it will solve everything. And he soon learns that maybe it's not the one-size-fits-all solution that he thought it was going to be. I really liked Luca. I thought he was very passionate about making pizzas, and I loved seeing how that kind of came across. I liked his friendship with June, who was his best friend, and I liked seeing the introduction of this character, Will, who created a little bit of drama between he and his best friend, June. And Luca, also I should mention, has a crush on Will. So he is dealing with Will being a friend, but also having a crush on him. And his relationship with June being thrown into chaos is like the cherry on top of the just crappy situation he's in, because he has been given so much responsibility. Like I said, he helps out at the restaurant a lot. Not that he doesn't enjoy doing it, but it's still a lot to put on the shoulders of a 12-year-old. He is often responsible for watching his siblings because his parents are both elbow deep in work at the restaurant. And the restaurant isn't necessarily in the greatest of shape, either like the physical building itself and like the appliances and stuff, or financially. And so it's created a lot of arguments between his parents. And somehow they keep seeming to put him in the middle. And nobody seems to realize the amount of pressure that has been put on Luca and how many times he's had to swallow what he is feeling to say, I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine. And there were times I just felt so bad for him and wanted to like shake the people around him and go, don't you realize what this kid is going through? Like, how is nobody picking up on how hard things are and how much Luca is struggling? And I think it does a great job of kind of demonstrating that, like Luca going through things and nobody really noticing how much this kid is struggling, and he being so sure that if he just gets on the show, everything will work out okay. And the reality being that's not really how it works. And I thought that was an interesting element because it got to show this thing that he loves, that he is really doing it because he loves doing it, not just because he's being forced to, but kind of showing that there needs to be a balance there. And I had a good time with this. I thought there was a lot to enjoy. I think he has very complex relationships with all of the characters I have mentioned. I've said multiple times, I really like seeing how his passion shows throughout this book. It made me want pizza really badly. So if you're hungry, maybe don't read that book while you're hungry, because there's a lot of talk of different kinds of pizza, making pizza, and ideas for different kinds of pizza. So there's a lot of food talk in this book, and I had fun with it. I thought it was a nice little middle grade contemporary with an interesting cast of characters, and it was really interesting to see Luca navigate everything that was being thrown at him. So I have no idea how Luca managed it, because it's evident that he had been managing that for a while before we even meet him, and then continues to try to deal with it in this. So an interesting middle grade contemporary that I had fun reading. Then I read All the Painted Stars, and I gave this 4 stars. This is the sequel to One Night in Heartswood, and I quite enjoyed this. This follows Joe and Lily. And Joe's hand in marriage is set to be won in this kind of tournament, and she tells her best friend Lily, and Lily does not like that Joe is kind of being forced to get married when it doesn't seem to her like Joe wants to. So she sneaks off and decides to enter the tournament and pretends to be a man to do so. And things don't exactly go according to plan. Something ends up happening that causes both Joe and Lily to flee, and they have to kind of figure things out from there, and things don't exactly go smoothly then either. I really like the relationship between Joe and Lily. I thought it was very genuine and realistic. I love the adventure they go on as they flee from the dangerous situation. I like seeing Lily in the tournament and seeing how that plays out before they go. And I love where they end up and how things play out once they get there. I liked the ending. I liked the way it wrapped up. And really, this was another one that kind of sucked me in and kept me. I don't think I liked this as much as the first book. I think I liked the characters in the first book better, but I did still really enjoy this. Although, not gonna lie, I am getting a little burnt out on romance. I read romance in December because I usually want to read romance in December, and now I feel like I've read a lot in January, and I still have one more on my TBR that I haven't gotten to, so that's going to be interesting. So maybe this would have fared a little bit better had I read it at a different time. I don't think by much. I think maybe like a quarter star, just because I'm a little burnt out on romance because I'm not somebody that reads tons of it, and all of a sudden I feel like I've read at least a couple books every week, because I mean, I read both of these in the last 5 days and they were both romances. So maybe down the line I will reread this when I'm in a different headspace, and I definitely think there's going to be a book 3, so maybe I will binge all 3 books when I get around to reading the 3rd book, because it feels like a trilogy. So we'll see when that comes, but all in all, I had a good time with this. I really like the series, and I'm very invested in seeing where it goes if we do get a 3rd book, because I think I know who we'd follow and I'd be interested in seeing their story. Then, because I'm still not done, I read Dead Good Detectives, and I gave this 4.25 stars. So this follows Sid and her best friend Zen, who like to play games in the graveyards, pretend there's ghosts or zombies or whatever. One day, Sid accidentally frees a real live ghost of, Ezekiel Bones Kittow, who is a pirate who died nearly 300 years ago. And Bones, well, he has some unfinished business that is tethering him to our world. And so he asks Sid to help him out. And considering Sid is the only one that can see him, she's kind of the only one who can. So we see Sid and Bones try to figure out what his unfinished business is, because unfortunately, he doesn't remember. He just knows it exists, or he wouldn't still be here. So they set off to try to figure out exactly what his unfinished business is, so that he can, cross over, leave, do whatever it is ghosts do when their unfinished business is met. I really, really had fun with this one. I'm not surprised, given that it is written by Jenny McLaughlin, who wrote the Roar series. This had a lot of the same whimsical, fun vibes. I really loved the relationship between Sid and Bones, and seeing that develop, considering Sid, who liked playing games with ghosts, isn't exactly thrilled to be able to see a real live one. She very much just wants to kind of be normal and to blend in. And well, talking to ghosts is not going to exactly make you blend in and make nobody notice you. So it is interesting seeing her try to navigate that and deal with the fact that she suddenly got this ghost in her life, and well, she can't tell anybody because she feels like they won't believe her, and nobody can see him, so it's not like she can prove it. And I just feel like it's such a fun book, trying to figure out what Bones' unfinished business is and how he ended up trapped here, what actually happened to him. I feel like it was kind of obvious, at least for me, which is why it got a 4.25, but I still had a lot of fun with it. There's still a lot of questions to be answered, and this is absolutely a series I cannot wait to continue, because I had a lot of fun with it. So don't be surprised if you see this and book 2 in a future book haul, because I don't believe book 2 is out here yet, and the covers for the UK versions are much cooler than this one, even though this is a pretty cool cover. I just like the UK version ones better, so I will probably be getting those relatively soon, because I would like to continue this sooner rather than later, because I had a lot of fun with it. And for the record, it has a ghost, but I don't consider it super spooky. It has slight spooky elements, but I have definitely read far spookier middle grade. So I had fun with this. It was not too spooky for me, and I would definitely recommend if you like books with ghosts and adventures and mysteries. Then I did my reread of The Forbidden Library, and I gave this 3.5 stars. I do not think I enjoyed this one nearly as much as I did the first time around. So this follows Alice, whose father ends up being presumed dead after he's out on a ship and it sinks. He's there for work, and Alice ends up getting sent to live with her uncle Geryon, who she's never heard of, and he has this incredible library that he warns her is dangerous. And she's bummed because she loves to read, but she soon meets a talking cat who ends up sneaking her into the library, introducing her to this really interesting book, and she soon finds out why the library is off limits and dangerous, as she ends up inside the book, and the only way to get out is to defeat the monster that's trapped inside the book, which opens up a whole new world for her and a lot of questions that she would like some answers to. So I know I gave this 4 stars back in 2019, and I was not doing half stars or quarter stars. I was just saying back then, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. So I don't know that this wasn't just a straight up 4 star when I read it, but it's definitely a 3.5 now. I did not like Alice as much as other characters I have mentioned. Specifically in this vlog, I can't say how I felt about her going into this because it's been so long that I just didn't remember, which is why I'm rereading this series. I did have some stuff come back to me as I was reading, and I do like the magic of the world, like the being able to go into the books and having to find a way to defeat the monster so that you can come out and what that leads to. I would like to know more about the magic of the books. I'm pretty sure we learn more as the series goes on, if my memory is correct, but again, it's been a while, so who knows whether I'm actually accurate about that. I'm never going to turn down a good talking cat. I always think those are interesting, and I enjoyed their inclusion in this one as well. I feel like when I thought about it before reading it, I enjoyed it more in my head than I did when I read it. Like, it's almost like I had hyped it up, and now I'm disappointed because it didn't live up to the hype I had in my head. Like, I own this book. This is a book I kept. It's been sitting on my shelves, and I have I'm not going to keep this. I'm going to unhaul it because I don't see me rereading the series again, because this read did not engage me enough to make me think I'm going to want to reread it again. So it is interesting that past me enjoyed it enough to give it 4 stars and want to keep it, and current me is like, no, 3.5 stars, I can unhaul this. So we'll see where this goes. It's going to be very interesting to see where I end up once I have read books 2 and 3, which I've already read. And I'm definitely going to wrap this series up because I'm not going to put all this time and effort in to rereading these books and then not finish it unless something super egregious happens that I just did not notice the first time. So we'll see where this goes, and hopefully the other books are maybe better and live up to some of my expectations, but I guess we'll see. Then I read Secrets and Snowflakes, and I gave this 3.5 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Weary Dragon Inn series, and this follows Bev, who runs a local inn and who showed up in Pig's End 5 years ago with no memory and kind of ended up taking over the inn from the previous owner. She started by handing out beverages, and that's where the Bev name came from. And she has had to solve a couple of mysteries in the past books. And in this one, her friends Valora and Ida start receiving these mysterious messages. And they're threatening. And they ask Bev if she can try to figure out who is sending them, because she has an entire inn full of suspects and a freak snowstorm is kind of keeping them trapped there. So she starts to quietly look into things. I just did not get into the mystery of this one as much as I have in previous books. I think partly because they were so snowed in that we were kind of revolving around the same couple of characters. And while I do like that in a closed door mystery, I love that trope where people are being picked off one by one and we know it's one of the people we're seeing. This was just threats, and I just didn't get into it the same way I normally do. I think Ida and Valora not being able to kind of help Bev with her mystery brought this down for me because they were so important to her in the first 2 books. It was also, like I said, missing some characters that I think I enjoyed seeing because they were snowed in. So I think I would prefer them to be able to go more around town and to see more of the full cast of characters that we've met along the way. I think there were some intriguing things that happen in this book that are playing out with the background story. So I think that is interesting, and I like that that's continuing to develop. This is a series I will continue. I just didn't think this was the strongest book in the series that I've read so far. And then the last book I read is Page Boy, and I gave this 3.75 stars. So this is the memoir of actor Elliot Page, and I didn't love the way Elliot chose to tell his story. Not that his story is bad or that there is a right or wrong way to tell it, because it's his story and he gets to tell it however he wants, but he jumps around a lot. And for me, that made it hard to keep straight sometimes where exactly in his life we were and what order the events were taking place in compared to different events he had told us about in previous chapters. That being said, I still did like hearing his story and his words, learning more about the bits of his story he chose to tell us. I thought he was open and honest about his struggles with his sexuality and his gender identity and how people treated him throughout this whole process. There were a lot of things he said that really, really resonated with me as somebody who also experiences dysphoria, who is also trans, and who struggled to figure that out. There were just parts that hit me so hard, and I was like, oh, yes. I felt that. I feel that. And I think it is so important to have somebody who is so visible, like Elliot, being so open about their story, their journey, how they felt, the things they went through, how they got to where they are now. And I liked how they were honest about recognizing their privilege of being able to have easy access to the ability to transition and to be able to afford it and have a support system in place that allowed him to really make this choice. I just thought this was such an important book, and like I said, I really resonated with it. It was just sometimes really jarring for me and the way my brain works to hop around like that, because I would sometimes have to stop, go back and reread to realize how old Elliot was in any given scene or where this was taking place in the timeline of their life. And that was really jarring for me. So that brought my rating down, but I still think this is an excellent book. I would highly recommend you check it out because it's such an intriguing story. And like I said, it resonated with me in some ways so incredibly much, even though me and Elliot are obviously very different people. So I would recommend this. Just keep in mind that they're going to be jumping around, and it may take you a minute to figure out exactly where you are in Elliot's life. So I believe that is everything. And I somehow am sitting here at like a 40-minute clip. Hopefully some of that can be edited out because I was definitely stumbling over my words or having to pause and think of how I wanted to phrase things. So hopefully that'll be a little bit shorter. But like 40 minutes for one clip in a 5-day vlog is a lot, but I also read like 11 books. This is why I said, like, I didn't check in with you because I didn't really want to be on camera, but I also didn't really want to be in my own head. So I was reading. Let's hope I can keep that mojo going, because if I do, I might actually have a shot at finishing pretty much everything on my January TBR, which would be mind-blowing. I'm currently sitting, I believe, at 31 books I finished in the month of January, and it is the 19th. Like, well, I mean, it's technically the 20th now, but I've had 19 days of reading. In 19 days, I read 31 books. January is off to another amazing start, and with the final book support group being next week, I feel like I'm easily going to break 40 this month. Probably more than that. So we're going to see how things go. But I'm going to wrap this vlog up because editing Chris is not going to be happy with a 40-minute clip to edit. So yes, that's the end of this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me some Halloween emojis in honor of Halloween Town, where Sally lives. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!